Welcome to Sleepy Tales. My name is Mateus, and before we begin today's story, I'd like to invite you to subscribe to our channel and leave a comment below saying, "I'll sleep well tonight." Now, sit back, relax, and let's dive into tonight's tale. The family had been searching for months for the perfect home. They had 2 young children, a boy and a girl, and needed a bigger space to accommodate their growing family. When they found a beautiful house with a reasonable price tag, they thought it was too good to be true. But they were desperate, so they signed the contract and moved in a week later. The house was located in a secluded area surrounded by dense forest, and the only way to access it was through a long, winding road. The first night in the new home was unsettling. The family heard strange noises, and the children complained about a presence in their room. But the parents attributed it to stress and fatigue from the move, and they all went to bed. The next morning, the family was relieved to have made it through the night. They spent the day unpacking and exploring their new home. However, as the day progressed, strange things started happening. Doors would open and close on their own, objects moved by themselves, and the children continued to complain about the presence in their room. As night fell, the family settled down to dinner. Suddenly, they heard a loud bang from upstairs. The father went to investigate and found nothing out of the ordinary. However, when he returned to the dining room, the family heard footsteps coming down the stairs. They looked up, but no one was there. Panic set in as the family realized that something was terribly wrong with the house. They tried to leave, but the front door was jammed shut. The windows wouldn't budge either, and the phones were dead. The family was trapped. As the night progressed, the paranormal activity intensified. The family heard voices, saw apparitions, and felt cold spots throughout the house. They huddled together in the living room, hoping that the sun would rise soon. The father tried to keep a brave face, but he was terrified. He had never believed in ghosts before, but he couldn't deny what was happening in the house. The mother was inconsolable, and the children were too scared to speak. As dawn approached, the family heard a faint whisper. They strained to listen and heard a plea for help. The family followed the voice and found a hidden room in the basement. Inside, they discovered the remains of several indigenous people who had been buried on the land. The family realized that the house was built on an ancient burial ground. The spirits had been trying to communicate with them, but the family had been too afraid to listen. The family vowed to help the spirits find peace, but they knew it wouldn't be easy. As the family began their quest to help the spirits, they had no idea what was in store for them. They were about to embark on a terrifying journey that would test their courage and resolve. But they had to try, for the sake of the spirits and their own survival. The family began their search to find the remains of the indigenous people buried on the land. They researched the history of the area and discovered that the land was once a sacred burial site for a local tribe. They realized that the spirits had been disturbed by the construction of their home, and they had to make it right. The father spent hours digging in the backyard, hoping to find any remains. Finally, he uncovered a small bone fragment. It was a sign that they were on the right track. They continued to search, and over the next few days, they found more bones and artifacts. The family was careful to treat everything with respect, as they knew they were dealing with powerful and ancient spirits. As they continued to search, the paranormal activity in the house intensified. The family saw apparitions more frequently, and the voices grew louder. The children were too scared to sleep in their rooms, and the parents spent their nights in a constant state of fear. But they knew they couldn't stop until they found all of the remains. One night, the father woke up to find himself outside in the woods. He had no recollection of how he got there, but he knew he had to keep searching. he followed a trail of bones that led him to a clearing. In the center of the clearing, he saw a figure sitting on a throne made of bones. The figure was surrounded by spirits, and the father knew that he had found the source of the paranormal activity. The father approached the figure and asked for their help. The figure agreed, but only if the family agreed to leave the land and never disturb the spirits again. The father knew that they had no other choice but to agree. The figure gave the father a map that showed the location of all the remains, and the family set out to find them. Over the next few days, the family collected the remaining bones and artifacts. They placed them all in a sacred location and held a ceremony to honor the spirits. As they performed the ceremony, they felt a sense of peace and calm. They knew that they had done the right thing and that the spirits were finally at rest. As they packed up to leave the house, the family felt a sense of sadness. They had grown attached to the house and the land, but they knew that they had to leave. As they drove away, they saw the figure from the clearing standing by the side of the road. They knew that it was a sign that the spirits were watching over them. The family never forgot their experience in the house. They knew that they had been lucky to survive, and they made a vow to never disturb sacred lands again. They also knew that they had to share their story, to warn others of the dangers of building on ancient burial grounds. And so, the family left the house and their experience behind, hoping that their story would serve as a warning to others. As the family drove away from the house, they thought their troubles were over. But little did they know, they were in for one final scare. A few days after they left, the father received a call from the real estate agent. The agent informed him that they had found something in the basement that the family had missed. The father was hesitant to go back, but he knew that they couldn't leave anything behind. They drove back to the house, and the father went into the basement alone. As he searched through the boxes, he found an old journal. The journal belonged to the previous owner, who had also experienced paranormal activity in the house. As the father read through the journal, he discovered something shocking. The previous owner had been digging in the backyard, just like the family. But he had uncovered something that the family had missed. He had found a strange stone with ancient symbols on it. He had taken the stone and placed it in the basement, hoping to keep it safe. But the stone had been the source of the paranormal activity in the house. And now, the family had taken it with them. The father realized that they had unknowingly brought the source of the paranormal activity with them. They had disturbed the spirits even further, and they were now in grave danger. The father rushed out of the house and into the car. As they drove away, the family could hear the spirits wailing in agony. The father knew that they had to return the stone to its rightful place, or they would never be able to escape the spirit's wrath. They drove back to the location where they had held the ceremony to honor the spirits. The father placed the stone back in its original location and apologized for disturbing the spirits once again. The family held another ceremony, this time asking for forgiveness and promising to never disturb the sacred land again. As they drove away, the family felt a sense of relief. They knew that they had finally made things right, and that they could move on from their traumatic experience. But as they drove down the road, they saw the figure from the clearing standing by the side of the road once again. The figure approached the car and spoke to the family. It revealed that it was not a spirit, but rather the descendant of the tribe that had once inhabited the land. The tribe had been cursed by a shaman, and the curse had been passed down through generations. The curse could only be lifted if someone pure of heart performed the necessary rituals and returned the stone to its rightful place. The family realized that they had unknowingly lifted the curse and had finally brought peace to the land. They thanked the descendant for his help and drove away, knowing that they had been a part of something much bigger than themselves. And so, the family moved on from their haunted house and their terrifying experience. They never forgot what they had been through, but they also knew that they had done the right thing. They had honored the spirits and lifted a curse that had been haunting the land for generations. They could finally move on, knowing that they had played a small part in a much larger story. Thank you for listening to this bedtime story, and remember, if you struggle with falling or staying asleep at night, click on the first link in the description for the ultimate solution to your problem. Now, choose one of these two videos and continue on our journey in the world of bedtime stories.